Think about the last time you wanted something, really deeply wanted it. A job, a relationship, a goal, something that kept you awake at night, something that felt like if you could just have it, everything would finally be okay. And then you got it. And for a moment, it was everything you hoped. And then, slowly, quietly, almost without you noticing, it wasn't enough anymore, and you started wanting the next thing. Arthur Schopenhauer watched this happen to every human being he ever observed, and he gave it a name: the pendulum of life. He said human existence swings endlessly, mechanically, without rest, between two poles: wanting and boredom, desire and emptiness, pain and the brief fading relief of getting what you wanted. And if he is right, then almost everything you have been told about how to be happy is built on a lie. Subscribe. We go this deep every week. Let's begin with Schopenhauer's core idea. He believed that human life, all human life without exception, is governed by will, not willpower, not free will, but something deeper and darker, a blind, ceaseless, irrational drive that pushes us to want, to desire, to strive, without any clear destination. He called it simply the will. And the will, according to Schopenhauer, is never satisfied. It cannot be satisfied. Satisfaction is not its purpose. Its purpose is to keep you wanting. So here is how the pendulum works. You feel desire, a want, a need, a longing. That desire is suffering. You pursue the object of that desire. If you fail, you suffer in frustration. If you succeed, you experience a brief moment of relief, not happiness, relief. The absence of the wanting for a moment, and then the wanting returns, bigger, hungrier, pointed at the next thing. Now here is the part that most people resist. Schopenhauer did not say that desire sometimes leads to suffering. He said desire is suffering, by definition, always. Think about what it actually feels like to deeply want something. It is not comfortable. There is an ache in it, a restlessness, a dissatisfaction with the present moment, because the present moment is not the thing you want. You are, in every moment of wanting, telling yourself that right now is not enough, that you are not enough, that something outside you is required before you can be at peace. And even when you get the thing, the relief is not happiness. It is the temporary ceasing of the ache, like scratching an itch. The scratch feels good, not because it adds something, but because it briefly removes the irritation. Happiness, Schopenhauer argued, is always negative. It is always the absence of pain, never the presence of something genuinely good. But the pendulum does not stop at desire, because here is what happens when you actually get everything you want. Schopenhauer observed that wealthy people, people who had fulfilled every material desire, who wanted for nothing, did not become happy. They became profoundly, devastatingly bored. When desire is removed, the will does not rest. It turns on itself and produces a new form of suffering, emptiness. He wrote, "If the human will were ever to find rest, life would drain away like blood from a cut vein." This is the boredom trap. You chase desire to escape suffering. You satisfy desire and fall into boredom. Boredom becomes unbearable, so you manufacture new desires to escape the boredom, and the pendulum swings again. Desire, striving, brief relief, boredom, new desire, repeat. This is not a phase of life. This is life itself, according to Schopenhauer. Now let's talk about something every single person watching this has experienced: the horizon problem. You know how a horizon works. No matter how far you walk toward it, it stays exactly the same distance away. Schopenhauer said happiness is exactly like this. It always looks achievable. It always seems like it is just one thing away, one more achievement, one more relationship, one more number in the bank account, one more milestone. And every time you reach that milestone, the horizon moves, and the next thing is now the thing that will finally make you happy. This is not a personal failure. This is not a flaw in your character. This is the architecture of human desire itself. It was designed, by evolution, by the will, to never be permanently satisfied, because a permanently satisfied animal stops striving, stops competing, stops surviving. The dissatisfaction is the engine, and you are the vehicle. Let's bring this into the most personal territory: romantic love. Schopenhauer had a view of romantic love that is either the most depressing or the most liberating thing you will ever hear, depending on where you are in life. He believed that romantic love, the passionate, consuming, overwhelming kind, is not about the individual you have fallen for. It is the will using you, pushing you toward reproduction, toward the continua. Now let's talk about something every single person watching this has experienced: the horizon problem. You know how a horizon works. No matter how far you walk toward it, it stays exactly the same distance away. Schopenhauer said happiness is exactly like this. It always looks achievable. It always seems like it is just one thing away. One more achievement, one more relationship, one more number in the bank account, one more milestone. And every time you reach that milestone, the horizon moves. And the next thing is now the thing that will finally make you happy. This is not a personal failure. This is not a flaw in your character. This is the architecture of human desire itself. It was designed by evolution, by the will, to never be permanently satisfied, because a permanently satisfied animal stops striving, stops competing, stops surviving. The dissatisfaction is the engine, and you are the vehicle. Let's bring this into the most personal territory: romantic love. Schopenhauer had a view of romantic love that is either the most depressing or the most liberating thing you will ever hear, depending on where you are in life. He believed that romantic love, the passionate, consuming, overwhelming kind, is not about the individual you have fallen for. It is the will using you, pushing you toward reproduction, toward the continuation of the species, toward its own blind purposes. The feeling of having found your soulmate, of this person being different from all others, is the will's most sophisticated trick, because once the trick has worked, once desire has been satisfied, the intensity fades. The person does not change, the feeling does, and the pendulum swings back toward wanting, and the cycle begins again. This does not mean love is not real. It means the version of love that promises permanent happiness is a story the will tells you to get what it wants. The same mechanism operates in ambition. Think about every person you know who achieved something significant: a promotion, a business success, a creative achievement, a public recognition. How long did it feel like enough? Schopenhauer documented this with almost clinical precision. The mountain climber who reaches the summit and immediately looks for a higher mountain. The entrepreneur who builds the company and immediately needs to build a bigger one. The artist who finishes the work and immediately is dissatisfied with it. The achievement is never the destination. It is merely the brief pause before the next wanting begins. And the most dangerous trap of all is believing that this time will be different, that this achievement, unlike all the others, will finally produce the feeling of enough. Enough is not a destination. It is a direction you are always moving toward and never arriving at. Now, here is where Schopenhauer becomes something other than just a philosopher of despair, because he did not stop at the diagnosis. He identified 3 genuine escapes from the pendulum, not permanent escapes, not solutions, genuine, temporary, meaningful pauses in the swinging. The first escape: aesthetic experience. Art, music, literature, nature. Schopenhauer believed that in moments of deep aesthetic absorption, when you are truly lost in a piece of music, truly moved by a painting, truly transported by a landscape, the will goes quiet. For a moment, and only a moment, you stop wanting, you stop striving, you stop being a self that needs something. You become pure perception, pure awareness. And in that state, there is something that functions like peace. This is why the greatest art does not entertain us. It briefly frees us from ourselves. The second escape: compassion. When you genuinely feel the suffering of another person, not pity, not sympathy from a distance, but real, felt compassion, something remarkable happens. The boundary between self and other temporarily dissolves, and when the self dissolves, even briefly, so does the will, because the will needs a self to torment. The third escape: asceticism, the deliberate, chosen reduction of desire. A life of voluntary simplicity is not poverty. It is the intelligent management of the engine that drives your suffering. What if the pendulum is not the enemy? What if the problem is not that life swings, but that we spend our lives fighting the swinging, to want and know it is wanting, to suffer and not add the suffering of resisting suffering, to watch the pendulum and be at peace with the watching? You are not broken because you cannot stay happy. You are not failing because the wanting keeps returning. You are human, and all of this is what being human actually is. The pendulum swings. It has always swung. It will always swing. The question is not how to stop it. The question is whether you can find peace inside the motion. Subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. We go this deep every week.